Him, we have obtained an inheritance. What is this inheritance? Well, the Bible says that this inheritance that you and I have, we're now heirs because we're children of God. Pastor Keith talked about this last week about being adopted as sons and daughters of the King. And so because now we're sons and daughters of the King, you and I have inheritance in Him. Okay? In fact, in Romans chapter 8, verse 17, and since we are His children, we are His heirs. In fact, together with Christ, we are heirs of God's glory. In other words, in fact, in the other version it says, we are co-heirs with Christ. If you are the son or daughter of the King, then the resources of the kingdom are also yours. The goodness of God, the blessing of God, the favor of God, the power of God. It's available to you, okay? And so that's what you and I have. You are marked, you have an identity, and you are His son, and you are His daughter. You remember in Luke chapter 15, Jesus talked about the parable of the lost son. The lost son wanted to finish all his inheritance, so he asked his father. And this was, during those times, this was disrespectful. You know why? Because asking for your inheritance was as if you were wishing your father dead. And so he asked for his inheritance and squandered his money into wild living and found himself eating food of pigs. And then a thought comes to him and says, you know, my father's hired hand or my father's servants are eating better than I am eating today. I'm eating pig's food. They're eating wonderful food. Why don't I just go to my father and say, hire me. I'll just work for you. And because as I work for you, either at least I'll have free food or work my debt off so that I can get back my sonship. Right? And so, you know the story. He, on his way back, the father runs. And this was so atypical or uncommon for a patriarch to pick up his robe, right, and start running. And it was undignified, but that's what the father did, runs to the son and embraces the son and protects him from being stoned to death because that was the death penalty for those who would dishonor and wish their fathers dead. And so now he's restored, and what happens? He had wished to work for his father as a servant. And then the Bible says in verse 22, but the father said to his servants, quick! Bring the best robe, put it on him, put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. He says, right now, immediately, straight away, without wasting any time, do this now. And what was he trying to do? He was restoring his son's sonship. You don't have to pay, he says. You don't have to work for your sonship. You're my son. Even now I'm declaring. Why did he say that? Because he said, remember, for he was lost, but now found. He was dead, but now is alive. That's what he did. What a picture of God's grace, the Father's grace for you and for me. Even before we started running towards Him, He ran towards us and made a way so that we can be restored back to Him. And surely we tried to work. Remember that spiritual scale? We try our very best to work. Lord, I'll do more. I'll serve more. I'll read more. I'll pray more. I'll give more. I'll go to church more. Even before you say more, He already hugged you and said, you're my son. You're my daughter. Quick, put on the best on Him. Give Him the best